Hello and welcome to the last day of December and the last day of the year, December 31st, 2025. This is the Freedom Stein Laboratory. And I was originally going to come on yesterday and do a bit of a rebuttal to Candace Owens' X Space or Space on X that she hosted. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just done with that. I can't do it anymore. If she wants to be distracted by Fort Huachuca and all the stuff that's going on there and take her investigation in places that I don't think it's going to get us to the real answers, that's fine. I don't want to be distracted in that way anymore. She was so disingenuous during this that it's sad because I was a huge supporter of her and now I could care less to watch her show ever again. She's so disingenuous. 3 times during that space, she said that she's talked about Fort Huachuca on one show. And I went, episode 277, did that just like disappear? That was the one where she actually shared the email before Mitch was on, where some of us went, wow, that story sounds like it's got a lot of BS in it, but okay, I'll go along with it and see what happens. And then we saw the interview with Mitch and realized that, nah, there's a lot of far-fetched stuff about his backstory. And then you all know how everything else is blown up around that. And when somebody tries to act like this is no big deal to me, you're the ones who are all making this a big deal. And then she literally had 2 shows on it, did a live Instagram on it that would go away because you don't save those things. And then she's been talking throughout the entire break all about Fort Huachuca and all this other stuff connected to that. You're just being disingenuous. So I'm not going to do a big old rebuttal against that. And I think there were a couple of people that were on, Morgan and Harrison, did a really good job of pushing back on her. And I'm glad that Candace actually had some people on who were going to push back against her because she needs to get a little bit of that so that people can hear that not everybody's in the Candace cult. Like, people who are doing the investigating stuff as well and are on with some of the things that she's come up with aren't on with all of it. And we're all not just like in this mind bubble like Q. And we're just whatever Candace does. It is amazing when you step away from the bubble and you're like, I don't want to be there anymore, how quickly the ones that are still in the bubble just come after you. It's been amazing to watch. And they really are like liberals. I mean, the reactions is totally the way liberals react. And it's become this whole thing about feelings and using, like, somebody goes, well, I had somebody push back on me on X. And they said, well, Candace, she might have mentioned it on another episode. And I'm like, mentioned, please. She read the entire email and went through the whole story. Okay, that's not mentioning something. That's what a liberal says. And I just can't do it. What we need to be focused on here is the motive, because that is what is the most important when it comes to why Charlie Kirk died. And I really think, based on what we've seen with Wolves and Finance, as he's been going through and figuring out about the shell companies or whatever you want to call them, these LLCs that are all connected into TPUSA and getting all this money, like the marketing company that's run by one guy who got like $4 million from TPUSA for marketing, and his address is a post box inside of a UPS store. What is that? Like, how is a marketing company just run out of a UPS store? It's just weird. I mean, I guess we live in a digital world, but still, that there's just something odd about that. I'm going to move my camera down here a little bit. I'd rather have it down more on me than up on the. You don't want to really see the window, do you? You want to see me. And then there's this other guy. His name is Dankster. First, I wanted to look at this internal memo that we had from Charlie to begin with, because I'm like, I've never actually looked at this thing and seen what this said. And I was like, this is something that I really would like to get to look at for myself so that I know exactly that this is something that Charlie said that he did want to have done, and see what his own words were about this. Because it's important to have all of the facts in place. So this is from the Redacted podcast. And here you can see that it is dated September 2nd, 2025. And it's RE, Chief Operating Officer. And for people who don't know, generally speaking, your chief operating officer, generally, I think that's something that is, I think they're usually connected to the money because you have the CEO and then you have the COO. Now, I've never been in a big corporate business, so this isn't something that I just know for sure off the top of my head. I mean, I've been the CEO of two of my own businesses, and that's it. It's just been me, and I'm my only employee. They're an executive in charge of the daily operations of an organization. They're usually second in command immediately after the CEO and report directly to them, acting on behalf of their in their absence. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily specifically have to do with just the money, but this is somebody who, is very, very important. So he says, Dear Team America, and this is from Charlie, effective immediately, Justin Strife is taking on a new elevated role with Turning Point USA as its COO. And this is actually the guy who came with Erica Kirk for the meeting with Candace. So it was like the two top heads of Turning Point USA met with Candace. Since joining Turning Point USA in 2020, Justin has led Turning Point's fundraising division. So this is a guy who's had his fingers in the money. And in more recent years, has been involved in some organizational operations, filling the CEO role in many ways, but now officially taking on the title and expanded responsibilities. In this role, he's going to directly oversee development, events, finance, TPUSA FAE, interesting, media marketing productions, asset management, distribution, Turning Point education, Blexit, pretty much everything there. Justin will also closely coordinate with Andrew Seifer on the National Field Program. In this role, I've empowered Justin, among other priorities, to engage in an organizational-wide Doge effort. Now, when they said that they aren't going forward with this, or we don't see any indication that they are going to go forward with this Doge thing, it isn't like this hasn't already been assigned to the specific person who's supposed to do it. Justin Strife. It's not just that Charlie put it out and said, hey, I want us to do a Doge audit, everybody. Let's organize this thing. It's something in my head that I would really like to get done. And then, oh, darn, they didn't get it done because, 8 days later, he's assassinated. He literally has said here in this role, I've empowered Justin to engage in an organizational wide Doge effort. And what's interesting about this is organizational wide Doge effort. So we're not just talking about auditing the money, I think, here. And then Charlie goes on to say specifically, Justin will be assembling a small team to assist in this effort, which is focused on Turning Point USA becoming more efficient, becoming more cost effective, unifying organizational success around company-wide metrics and goals, and reshaping company culture. This is something that doesn't get talked about a lot with this. Is we're not just talking about he wanted to know what was going on with the money, like how much money is coming in and where is it all going. Why are we reshaping company culture? That to me is key. That tells me that there's something about what they were focused on that we're not going to be focusing on that anymore. Is this a small country over in the Middle East that we're not going to be championing so much? I'm going to pull away from those donors more. Maybe it's just the culture of having so many big money donors. I don't understand why any organization, especially if you want to think of yourself as being something that's a charitable kind of organization, why you would want to accept these huge donations. Now, obviously, in my brain, I understand why, because it's big money. What you're doing is giving people that kind of power. It's just like when you're the head of a company and you're like, let's say you're the CEO and you're invested in your company, and then you have the board of directors. And when they do like a hostile takeover, it's like they try to buy you out. So if you want to hold on to your company, you want to make sure that nobody has more shares in that company than you. Otherwise, you can get ousted if they manage to buy you out or what have you, or get in more of those powers. And so to me, it's kind of the same thing when you have a donor that gives you big money. It's almost like you're giving them more power. And I believe big donors would feel like they have more say. And I think we saw that, or we're hearing rumors of that when it comes to Charlie, that these guys were like, hey, we're going to pull this money back if you don't do such and such the way we want to. So I think that's a key thing that a lot of people haven't been talking about, that we should have a big focus on that. But this clearly, in this final bigger paragraph here, he's already assigned this. It's already being done. Justin's in charge. He's going to be assembling a small team. So where's the small team and where's this Doge effort? And then he goes on to say, please join me in congratulating Justin on this new role with the organization. And this definitely means that Tyler Boyer has been pushed out from the COO position. And Tyler Boyer is the one who's come out on X and he said, we've had all these audits. We really don't need to have a Doge-like audit. I mean, we've been doing these audits annually and everything's, comes back fine. So then the internet sleuths went, really? Okay. And they started looking into the auditing company, which makes sense. If you keep passing audits and you really shouldn't be passing those audits, there's something wrong with the auditing company. And the auditing company that they're using is Baker Tilly, and they've been using them, I think, the entire time. So this is for years. And I don't know why anybody would want to have these auditors, because the history of this company is so shady. And if anything, they're completely incompetent. They don't catch stuff. And that's being generous, because maybe they are catching stuff, but they're being told to look the other way. They're being paid to look the other way. I don't know. But there's this example out there about these Catholic charities. And this woman was in charge of the credit card. And she thought, hey, I've got a credit card. I could just spend money however I want to. I'll charge some stuff off of Amazon, and I'm going to go over the MGM Grand and maybe do a little gambling and stuff with the credit card. And then I'll just take the charitable donations and pay the credit card back, because that's what the charitable donations are for, is for paying off our bills. And she did that to the tune of $1.5 million. And she did it over a number of years. And Baker Tilly was doing the auditing, and they never once went, what are all these charges on the credit card, especially to things like, the MGM Grand? What does that have to do with Catholic charities? I'm just wondering. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they have a priest at the MGM that they're putting up. Okay. So what I want to go here is to this guy. His name is Dankster. I think he's called the original Dankster. It's Danks, but I think he's at original Dankster on YouTube. And I want to share, because he's really done a good job here of uncovering how shady this auditing company is.
I need to get back to where I started, because this is one that, it's kind of bothersome, and it's not a good thing, especially TPUSA being a Christian organization and them auditing this Christian organization. Let me tell you what they've done with the Catholic Charities Milwaukee. So
be fearless. Change is good.
Sorry about the ads.
I don't really.
The Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee fed people. They do feed people. They house people. They help people in the worst moments of their lives. When someone has nowhere else to turn, Catholic Charities are there. Every dollar they have actually comes from donors and from people who trust their money is going to help somebody in need. Okay? This isn't a company getting like tens and tens and tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars like TPUSA. It's a smaller company. According to a lawsuit filed May 9th of 2025, this year, Brandy Ellis allegedly stole $1.7 million from Catholic charities over 10 years. So this is over 10 years that this person, Brandy, has been stealing money, allegedly. So let me tell you what the lawsuit says Baker Tilly actually missed. Amazon purchases on the charity credit card and charges at the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas, Ticketmaster, concerts and shows, all on the charity credit card, gambling, restaurants, what have you at the MGM Grand. Every year, every single year for 10 years, Baker Tilly audited Catholic charities, reviewed their financials, checked their controls, and
yeah, so he's repeating what I said there. And then back over here, we had a I think this was over in it's a Hong Kong one here. It says SEC imposes sanctions against Hong Kong-based firm and 2 accountants for audit failure. The Securities and Exchange Commission today imposed sanctions against a Hong Kong-based audit firm and 2 accountants for failing to properly audit year-end financial statements. It found that Baker Tilly Hong Kong Limited, its director Andrew Ross and its former director Helena Kwok ignored red flags surrounding approximately $59 million in related party transactions reflected in internal accounting records of China Northeast Petroleum Holdings Limited. Baker Tilly and the 2 accountants failed to plan and implement an appropriate audit response to the related party transactions, which primarily involved the company, its then CEO, and his mother. So here we have, not only do we have this woman with the Catholic Charities who was embezzling money, we have the CEO and his mother embezzling money, and Baker Tilly isn't catching it. So again, this is just a company that maybe is really, I don't know, inappropriate in what they're doing, but I mean, I find it hard to believe that they just maybe were missing some of this stuff. And again, this all comes back to, was Charlie figuring this stuff out? I don't necessarily think that this was just all of a sudden Charlie is like, I think I should run a Doge audit because I keep looking at the money at the end of the year and like we have $80 million coming in and then we have $5 million left at the end of the year. Where is all this money going? I don't really think that's fully what's going on here, as much as I hate to say this because I really do care about Charlie and definitely about what happened to him. This is also a man who had a multi-million-dollar home. He had multiple homes in multiple states. He was living a good life. And he had to know that where's this money coming from? Because it's not like he came from money, and he didn't have any money when he first started TPUSA. So what I really feel like went on here is not just all of a sudden he woke up one day and went, I'm going to do a Doge audit here because something's not right here. I kind of feel like he had maybe a crisis of conscience and went, I know something isn't right here. And I want to, it's like he wanted to have a third party come in and reveal it so it's not like on him having to come out and say it, because this is not going to look good on him either. When this Doge audit shows that you are funneling millions of dollars to all these other companies, it's not going to look good, especially when these other LLCs are people that actually work for you or are donors for TPUSA. Let me put this in, this is the way I understand it, okay? You have this big company, and when you run a company, there's lots of things that you need to have done for it. And, you have accounting that needs to be done. You have marketing that needs to be done, purchasing. If it's something like TPUSA, you have events that you need to set up. And so usually in a company, you might have different divisions. Like this division takes care of this division takes care of this, and this. Well, we're not experts in that. So for this thing, we're going to have to hire out. And for this thing, we're going to have to hire out. So we have some of our people working on some of this stuff, and then we're going to have to pay these other companies to do it. And then you sit down and you think about it and you're like, well, we do have some people who work here that are really good at marketing. Why don't we have them form some kind of a marketing LLC, and then we can pay the money to them? It's kind of like this circle, give them the money, and they donate the money back, and then we give them the money, and we're just paying ourselves kind of thing. And that's what I feel like was going on here with these LLCs. It's like they were just funneling the money to themselves. I don't know that you could use the term laundering specifically or illegal specifically, but something doesn't seem right about that, and something seems shady. And somehow Charlie had to know that if they do this, that's going to be shown to the world. Everybody's going to see it. So he was really willing to take that kind of a risk. And that's why I think he was having a crisis uh, of conscience and was like, okay, we need to clean this out. We need to get right with everything. And maybe it was because he was getting all this pressure from the donors and they were pulling the money back that he was like, okay, we need to do something because we're going to be losing money, and I need to figure out where this money's going because we're going to have to tighten the ship down. And I think that's part of the culture too, is that we need to tighten the way things are done here. Maybe they were pretty loosey-goosey with the money. Clearly, there are big issues here. Tyler Boyer goes around saying that he is like Charlie's best friend. And he was, his right-hand man. And he was the one bringing in all the people and hiring all these people. And, like Andrew Colvett came through him and stuff. And Blake Neff probably came through him too. I'm not positive about that. So Tyler Boyer's bringing these people in, and Charlie didn't fire him, but he demoted him. That's big. That's huge. And then you put somebody else in charge. There's a reason why there was that shift. And I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that that happened not even 2 weeks before he is assassinated, something was going on in there, and they don't want us to shine a light on it. And I just hope we can. And this is what a lot of the independent investigators out there are starting to focus on, especially this Wolf in Finance, man. He is so good with this stuff, because that's what we need to be looking at. Because I think if we get into that, we'll be able to maybe figure out more of what happened to Charlie. Because the main thing when it comes down to a murder investigation, yeah, it's great if you got a body. It's great if you've got a weapon, but you got to have motive. If you can't tell a jury the motive involved, it is very hard to convince them, especially with circumstantial evidence, that somebody did something. Because murdering somebody is pretty big. There's not a lot of people that just kill people for the pleasure of it. We do have serial killers out there, but they are so rare. Generally speaking, people kill for a reason, and you need to know the reason why. And I feel like this is the motive. And that's what we need to be focusing on. It may have nothing to do with that little country over there in the Middle East, other than the money. Like, they want to pull back that money, and the pressure. Money is one of the main reasons why you have a murder. So I really think that's what it's going to come down to. And we need to keep pulling back these layers. But the fact that TPUSA has kept this company, Baker Tilly, for all these years, darn well, just out of incompetence, there's a lot of stuff that they didn't catch. But I think they were told or brought in because they knew they would look the other way. Clearly, they have a record here that people can look at and go, this is who we want in if we want stuff to pass underneath the table. The other thing that I wanted to discuss on this episode is the FBI. We already know that the CIA, they're basically our secret government, right? We don't need to pretend that there's something else that they aren't. The CIA is running the government. And while the FBI and the CIA didn't used to talk to each other, I believe now they do seem to be working together a lot. And it is amazing how, like, the guy who got in at the top of the CIA, his name is escaping me, but I was very excited about him because I thought he would go in there and do a good job. And again, we have a guy goes in there, nothing gets done. It's like what happened with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I think Kash Patel was brought in and offered some money. I think Dan Bongino was brought in and threatened. I think the guy who's over at the head of the CIA probably threatened too. And this is why these guys are like, okay, we'll back off. We're not going to do whatever. Kash Patel, unfortunately, I think is bought and paid for. But Dan Bongino put out this X yesterday as we're ending the year, closing out the year. These are just some of the statistics your new FBI leadership team and the working agents in the field offices compiled. Now, let me just say, I'm glad we're getting rid of violent crime. Definitely needs to be done. But a lot of the violent crime that is out there on the street is not federal. So we don't need a big federal agency to take care of that. Just make sure that our police are doing their job on a local level. But anyway, over 50,000 arrests, 30,000 plus violent crime arrests, nearly double the number from 2024. 1,800 gangs and criminal enterprises disrupted. That's a 210% increase. 2,000 plus kilos of fentanyl seized, up 31%, enough to kill 130 million Americans. Nihilistic violent extremism arrests up 490%. I have no idea what that even means. Nihilistic violent extremism arrests? What, people who were going to commit a mass shooting or something? I don't even know what that means. Now, I do appreciate this. Over 6,000 child victims located. That's up 22%. But can we compare those numbers to how many child victims also went back into the system? Or, I mean, we know that this underground government, this behind the scenes government, the evil ones, all of that, what this runs on is sacrifice. And I'll just put it at that. And it's young. And I don't think we have all of these children go missing every year just because you have some crazy out there who likes to diddle children and then kills them. This is a system feeding what is ruling everything. This is what you pay. This is your pledge to that. It's just a modern day visual of, you know, the young virgins that they would tie up outside the village and leave them for the forest monster or whatever. That's what this is. And we know who the forest monster is. And it's, and then he just added in here, please read what, you know, Kash Patel, and Kash Patel is going to go about the same thing. We're all sitting here going, okay, we have a historic drop in U.S. murder rate, which I don't know how you prevent that other than I guess they think because they're arresting violent crime that it's making people not want to commit murder. But we were promised we were going to get big arrests here. You're the FBI. I know when we have crimes that go over state lines or that are bigger than others that you guys get involved. But generally speaking, I expect the Federal Bureau of Investigation to take care of the really, really big crimes with the really, really big arrests. All they have proven, both in the FBI and the CIA, is that if you are elite, powerful, and rich, you are still untouchable. And we're going to be so transparent that when we put stuff out, we're going to redact pretty much everything. This is their transparency. And again, these are numbers that they're putting out. Do we have any proof that they've done anything that they've said here? Every time they release these numbers, I say to myself, can you show us that? Like, can you show us where all these arrests are taking place that you're claiming that you've done and that you're up that much higher? Because for most of us, when we're watching the world around us, we're seeing some crimes that, I mean, I never would have thought. In 2020, I went to New York City and I felt completely comfortable getting on the subway and going everywhere around Manhattan, seeing all of the high points, spent 4 days there, had a great time, felt completely safe on the subway. Yes, you had your homeless and mentally ill on there, but you didn't have people who were going to stab you in the neck, set you on fire. I walked down the streets of New York City and I wasn't afraid that somebody's going to run up and punch me full on in the face. And that's what we have going on now. So I'm like, you guys haven't changed that or fixed that. All of that stuff has just now started and is getting worse. So The one thing is not like the other. These aren't making sense to me. So you can give me all your numbers that you want, but I'm not seeing it in person. And until you start making those big arrests, but Dan Bongino's not going to be doing that. I think he wanted to go out and say, look at what I helped to do. I'm going to go back to my show and I'm going to get on there and I'm going to yell and I'm going to say, we need to change this and this is what's going wrong and blah, 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 blah. We need to. And all of us are going to sit there and go, you know what? This guy is back to making his millions while he screams into a microphone and does nothing to change it when he actually has the chance to do something about it. Not many people who get on a microphone like myself and rant about things have the opportunity to be the second in charge of the FBI. And the big thing that we got from you is Epstein killed himself. Great. Thanks, Dan. Have fun going back to your show. And you know what? What's really sad about it? He's going to get his millions of views and he's going to have the people who are giving him lots of money again. And oh, Dan, we're so happy to have you back. And you're so amazing. You did all this great stuff. Mwah, 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 kissing his butt. And I'm over it. This is not the Dan that I interviewed back when he was running for Congress and had just come off of being part of Obama's Secret Service. I don't know who this is. I don't know what they threatened him with. Maybe he'll come out and tell us a few things, but I doubt it. And then he'll just say, well, I signed an NDA for the next 70 years, so it doesn't go away until after I'm dead. And by the way, Epstein killed himself. Just fabulous. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining me on this one. If you like what you see or hear, please hit the thumbs up. And would love to get your comments below. Please subscribe. I am planning here in the new year to turn this into a podcast as well, so that it will be available on all the podcast catchers out there. And I'm going to start going with more of a focus of not necessarily on the daily news of the day, because frankly, let's just, politics gets kind of boring. I'm going to focus more on the kind of things that I used to do back in the past, where we're looking at hidden history, secret organizations and societies working behind the scenes, the news behind the news, or the history behind the news, or the truth behind the news, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm going to start focusing on more in the future. And as you know, I come from a Christian viewpoint. So I believe we are in a spiritual battle. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on, is pulling away. We can't see into that other side, maybe because God took something away from our vision that we can't see into that other realm, but it's there, and it's there every day. And they definitely have their fingers in everything, including a lot of people's brains. So we will be talking about that starting in 2026 here. You guys have a happy New Year's Eve. Be safe, and Happy New Year.